Hello, friends, and welcome to my today's lecture that is on the themes in The Emperor Jones by Eugene O'Neill. In my last few lectures, I had talked about the summary of The Emperor Jones, the aptness of the title, The Emperor Jones, that is given to the novel, and today I'll be talking about the various themes that are dealt with in this particular novel. The various themes that Emperor Jones deals with in that Eugene O'Neill deals with in The Emperor Jones are racism, history and collective memory, power and systematic operation, godliness, humanity and fear, slavery, autocracy, gullibility and spirituality, fall from power, greed and pride. Today I'll be talking about racism first. What we find is, or rather when we give a study to it, we see that the Emperor Jones tells the story of Brutus Jones, a porter on a train car, who, after killing a black man and then a white prison guard in the United States, escapes to a Caribbean island. On the island, we find that he quickly sets up an empire with himself as an emperor. He accumulates vast wealth by levying heavy taxes on the black natives and by engaging in various forms of corruption. When he learns from a white trader named Smithers that his black native subjects are planning to revolt against him, he embarks on a journey through the forest to escape by the sea. Now, as Jones wanders through the forest at night, with the sound of the natives' drums constantly beating in the background, he is faced with the various native summoned apparitions that force him to confront the fact that in making himself emperor and exploiting the natives, he was performing whiteness, putting into practice the lessons that he learned by watching the white people who mistreated, or rather who ill-treated and exploited him in the United States. Furthermore, he comes to realize that his particular race and all that comes with it isn't something that he can escape or rather deny. Now, as we begin with the play, we find that it opens with Jones already having established as an emperor. And the play goes back in the flashback. He is extremely powerful. The natives believe that he is charmed and that he can be killed only by silver bullets. But this myth was created by Brutus Jones himself. He is rich from the taxes and all other sorts of corrupt business that his role allows him to engage in without consequences. In one sense, by transforming himself into a rich and a powerful emperor, he overturns the racist situation that defines his life of exploitation and impoverishment in the United States. However, the play takes on racism isn't really nearly that simple. Jones doesn't just set him up as an emperor. Rather, he makes himself emperor over the other black people and uses his position to exploit and oppress those people, those black people, in order to enrich himself. Now, Jones seeks power and exploits the less powerful that are there, just as he himself was exploited by the white people in the United States. Moreover, we see that Jones explicitly states that he was able to successfully install himself as an emperor and tax the natives dry by using what he learned from the white people during his time while he was working as a porter, that big stealing brings fame and fortune to a man. With this, the play then connects whiteness and white people to exploitation, corruption, and seeking power. It also makes the case that Jones, in making himself an emperor, he is acting like a white person. To this point, Jones does hold what can be described as racist views towards the natives he oppresses, whom he views as dumb and gullible. More broadly, this dynamic suggests that white racism and exploitation create a kind of cycle in which white culture defines the terms of success, power, and wealth. And then anyone who tries to gain that success will necessarily have to act like a white person in order to achieve it. Now, white racism and exploitation, as the play suggests, create only more exploitation and more racism. Now, after learning of the natives' imminent that revolt against him, Jones flees into the forest, and there he confronts the apparitions which are summoned by the natives. His interactions with these apparitions force him to relive his own personal history, which took place in the early 20th century, and the history of slavery in the United States. As he wanders, he encounters the apparitions of the black man and the white prison guard that he had killed, and then experiences being sold at a slave auction, being a passenger on a slave ship bound for the US, and finally, a sacrificial ceremony performed by a witch doctor in Congo. As Jones descends through time and confronts these apparitions, the things that signify his facade of white power get stripped away, and his belief in his own power erodes until he is nothing more than a scared, animalistic man with no power of any sort. Now, through these apparitions, the natives, they force Jones to admit that he is black, thereby insisting that it's impossible to escape this knowledge no matter how high he climbs. Now, within the logic of the play and in the light of the rampant racism of the time period in which it was written around 1920, the play leaves the viewer with the assertion that the black individuals like Jones, who seek to better themselves by performing whiteness or acting like whites, are doing so futilely, and that they'll never escape the fact that they are black and will always be seen as such, and that even in trying to escape, they are only ever reenacting the exploitation and racism that afflicted them in the first place. Now, the play's exploration of race is further complicated by the character of Smithers, a cantankerous, racist white sailor who seems to be enriching himself through Jones' own corrupt practices. And Smithers appears in the first and the last scenes of the play, and in those scenes, he actually functions as a narrator and a kind of narrator. Now, in the first scene, Smithers introduces Jones to the audience, and in the last, he accompanies the black natives to the edge of the forest where they kill Jones. Now, by having Smithers open and close the play, he's established as an interpreter of the events, and the viewer is encouraged to identify with him and with his interpretation. Now, if put in another way, the play literally sets up zones to be viewed through a lens of whiteness as provided by Smithers. Now, there are a few implications of this structural dynamic. First, the fact that Smithers appears to respect Jones more than he does the natives highlights even further the way that Jones' own ascent to power is based on the racist and exploitative viewpoints that he learned from white men. And secondly, even though Smithers occupies a very small place in the action itself, his role as an interpreter affords him a greater deal of power. His way of interpreting those events is given precedence. So, in a play about a black emperor, it is still a white man who holds the most power. Essentially, most importantly, both thematically and structurally, the play seems to suggest that there is no escape for the black people, no matter how high they ascend from white racism and oppression. That's all for now. I'll be coming up with more lectures, more themes in my next lecture. Till then, goodbye and thank you.